Hey, Planeswalkers, Mithras here. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. Today is one of my favorite days, my friends. We are doing a tier list day once again to kick off the beginning of Strixhaven here, set you up nicely for the end of the season, and get you prepared for the beginning of a new season as well as we close out April and move into May, my friends. So I appreciate you tuning in. We got a lot to talk through. Feel free to go down below into the timestamps where we will talk about and show you both the best of one and best of three tier list here today. We're going to cover off on some key trends and observations that I've had, and then additionally we'll close out with three key decks here from the new Strixhaven season that I wanted to share directly with you. Now, like I said, appreciate you tuning in. Flip me a like if you enjoyed today's video. Now, if you have questions or comments, let me know down below. Feel free to hop in the Discord server. That information's in the details and all the great ways to support the channel, my friends. So let's go ahead and kick off our tier list. But before we do so, for those of you that are new, those of you that are returning, the way that I approach a tier list is a stack rank between a tier 1, 2, and 3. If we get enough decks, typically as I get up to like 40 plus, 50 plus, I'll break that down into more and about four tiers for you. But today we only got 3. It's a stack ranking of which deck is most likely to beat the other deck in a head-to-head kind of play, or plus totality of the group. Now, this is directly related to this deck group list that I'm sharing with you, not all the decks in the meta. So if you want to go ahead and check out several decks, I did about 50 plus decks for Kaldheim. All those decks are still legal if you're looking for something else to play. Today is a quick hit list of roughly 10 decks for us. So with that, and without further ado, we are now going to go ahead and take a look at our lovely tier list here today. And I'm absolutely ecstatic to be sharing this work with you, because it is certainly something that is a culmination of all the work that we have done here over the last few days in terms of the standard season, and looking right here for it. So move my ugly mug over so that we're out of the way here. This is the best of one tier list. These lists are available to you down below in the details, so you have access to it right away. The deep dives on all the decks are there for you as well. So wanted to equip you with that information, but let's get to it now for our best of one April 2021 standard tier list for Strixhaven. So we're looking at about 10 decks here. So to kick it off at tier 1, we have Mono White Life Gain, followed by Boros Venata. Tier 2, we have Mono Red Snow Aggro, 4-color cycle. Also your cycle, which I have been saying for a while. Many people give me a hard time about that, but that is the correct way to do it. Lots of you say it's Jeskai and Boros per se as well. So absolutely something to check out. It's still doing well in the meta. Mono Green Stompy, Mono Black Auras, Jund Magecraft, Magda Gruul, Orzhov Magecraft, Jeskai Transmogrify, Teamer Adventures, and Sultai Ultimatum. Now, remember, this is a very competitive group here. This is how these decks perform against each other. It's not relative also to the percent archetype and those things. So keep that in mind. So an example, as Sultai climbs up and has more percentage of the meta, we find Mono Red Snow Aggro tends to be more prevalent and have a higher win rate, kind of a thing. So stay tuned for my weekly meta analysis, where I do break this stuff down in more detail in terms of the key stats and those percentages like I just outlined. Now, a couple of other things that I want to talk about for this list here quickly. There's several new decks, but to get to the 10 plus, I did add a couple that were still very popular in the meta, and additionally those decks are still doing really well. So like I said, check out the Kaldheim stuff still, because there are things that are playing very well. And if you caught my episode on Mono Green Stompy by Rumpty coming off the back of Extra Life, certainly no Strixhaven cards and a very great deck. So that is the best of one list. It is primarily based off of win rates. These are certainly very competitive when it comes to best of one. We don't have best of one tournaments, kind of a thing. So a little bit different value proposition here and things for us to keep in mind. Now, if you got questions or comments, like I said, let me know, or hop in the Discord server, my friends, and this tier list is available for you. down below. All right, so next we got our best of 3 here, standard tier list again. So to start at tier 1, we got mono red snow aggro. Tier 2, or sorry, number 2 of tier 1, we got Boros Winata. Tier 2, to kick that off, we got mono white aggro, 4-color cycle, Teamer Adventures, Team Returns, Sultai Ultimatum, mono green Stompy, Magda Gruul, Naya Adventure. Then at tier 3, we got Jund Magecraft, Jeskai Transmogrify, and Orzhov Magecraft. So very, very important. Similar thing here. We got a few decks that are new, and a couple decks that were previously in the meta that have still been playing very, very well. And additionally, these are a lot of some of those decks with better tweaks that have allowed us to be in a better position as well. So that's a lot better. Sorry, but with that, again, this list is available to you down below. Links, deck links, and YouTube videos to keep you up to date on each of these pieces. And let me know if you have questions or comments here, and happy to help. We haven't had any real big impactful events, minus the one like I mentioned with Rumpty and Extra Life. Additionally, in our Discord server, lots of great conversation around that, and one of the folks, Monster Jeff, had a top 3 finish with Sultai Ultimatum as well. So congrats again, and would love to see you guys in there. So with that, we will now move into some of the key trends and observations. Like I said, if you got questions, comments, let me know down below. Flip me a like if you're enjoying today's episode. All right, so here's what we got going on, and a bunch of key things that I did want to talk through, and I'll move back to our lovely best of 1 list here so you can see that. First off, in terms of some of these key observations, I just want to kind of share with you my initial impressions. I do have a sealed video that I still need to show. Additionally, this was a part of some Twitch work or live streaming that I did. Feel free to follow me on Twitch or sub. Great way to stay connected, great ways for us to interact. There, I did do a sealed event. I played a ton of sealed, a ton of draft to get these cards to build these decks for you guys and gals. And honestly, I really enjoyed it a lot. I really, really enjoyed it, and we'll talk about some of those key pieces here in a little bit. But a big thing is to, get your players engaged. I know many of you are engaged. Many of you are enjoying these decks. Certainly when I'm posting decks that got new things like Orzhov Magecraft or some of the Jeskai Transmogrify stuff, and things like that, or the Boros Winata stuff, everyone's more keen on seeing some of these new interactions. So love the deck brewing going on. If you got top 1,500 decks that you want to share, want me to showcase, always throw that out there. Let me know, and would be happy to cover that because I enjoy covering your content. And then the also piece here that I don't cover a ton on is historic. Really liking historic as well. I'm going to start making some more historic videos for you going into the May season here, so we can do another tier list or updated tier list for you as well. So that leads me into why is this so much fun? Well, the Strixhaven mechanics certainly are alive and well. So the 2 big ones, Magecraft and Learn, we have full decks leveraging Magecraft that are fairly competitive right now, and seeing some bumps, certainly in the mid-range, certainly in some of the aggro stuff, obviously in the Boros Winata construct as well. Learn is a great mechanic. I really like it, particularly in best of 1. I think it certainly enhances the experience. I like going to a leverage 7 card sideboard, something different, something new. It's nice to see Wizards focusing on a little bit of that change between sealed as well as some of the constructed best of 1 changes, and bringing in a set that's making us think differently, making us play a little bit differently, and then also impacting kind of backwards in some of these things as well, which is always fun to see. Then the next big piece here is it Winota, or Winona Ryder, as Trey likes to say. So shout out to Trey there for that, as always. But one of the big key decks that's always usually seems to pop off at the beginning of new sets is some sort of Winota deck, or a Winona Ryder deck. And in this season, we have Boros, and particularly a couple of the key parts is the 3/1 flyer that allows us to look at our opponent's hands and lock them out of key cards and see how they're going to play. And then obviously the Blade Master for the double strike is just nasty. You throw in Kenrith, hit Kenrith with trample, giving your entire board a cleave when you have Blade Master on as well. So very, very powerful. If you have not ran into this deck, I'd be surprised. But it is, and it certainly within the last week has rose pretty heavily to prominence. Meta is starting to shift already, so good for you guys to recognize that and play around that. Certainly my win rates with that particular deck was much higher. You can check out my Twitch. Stroman put in super awesome or something. I'd have to go back and check out our lovely Discord banter there on just an absolute amazing run with it. I think I went 7-0 or something with my version that I did, and like 13-3 overall or something crazy. So very, very cool, very powerful right now. So check it out. Next, I want to talk a little bit about best of 1 and best of 3 in terms of the cycle. We are seeing a heavy aggro-y type cycle again. Mono white life gain generally does well against these more aggro-y decks because it can just outlast them. It can also go wide with the particular version that's been ran, and it's a great counter to a lot of these things. Now, the kicker is you got to keep an eye on some of these late game decks like Temur Adventures, Sultai Ultimatum. Getting hit with Shadow's Verdict just burns the entire board. So that's a key one. And then again, as we move into best of 3, we're seeing the same thing. We're starting to see these aggro decks kind of rise back to prominence. We do see more of the late game decks kind of in that middle of the pack right now. But those are some key things to keep an eye on. I do believe, and I will continue to say this, and maybe Boros Venata is really that deck, is more of a mid-range shift. I've talked about this before. We kind of skipped over mid-range. We had some sacrifice decks, and then they just kind of, it didn't really pop well enough. I think there's something there with the John Magecraft. I really enjoyed that. Or some sort of Orzhov as well, like the Orzhov Magecraft that we have here. That could become a thing. So let's keep an eye on that. We're still early game in the cycle. Typically, aggro tends to excel, particularly in best of 1 for fast matches. The key one that we want to keep an eye on here is really the best of 3. Mono red snow aggro is going to do well because a lot of it's probably Sultai Ultimatum in the mix. In terms of arena right now. And then the last thing I want to talk about is what once was still is. So here we have old decks that are remaining strong in the meta. We talked about this. It's one of the key reasons why I pulled some of these decks in here where they haven't really had too many changes yet. So the deck lists are still relevant if you still got those Kaldheim cards that you want to use, or if you still want to be competitive. Absolutely check out my top 50 list. I'll make sure I have that link in there for you too, for Kaldheim, so you can kind of see how the season closed out and see how things are positioned there as well. So we continue, like I said, to have a very interesting meta. I think it's very balanced. So tying back to my initial impressions, I'm really happy, again, the way that Standard has evolved. This isn't an Omnath, oh my gosh, this is the deck to play. 50% of the meta is playing it. We have a really, really nice, healthy blend here. So we'll get another couple of months of a nice Strixhaven Standard, and looking forward to some tournaments to see how things continue to impact the list here and the gameplay on a monthly as well as a faster clip play basis like the weekly that we've been doing in terms of the meta. So that, my friends, is the key observations, the trends, and some of the things I want to talk about. This is also, we've covered the best of 1 and best of 3 list. So now let's go ahead and equip you with some key decks. Certainly, you're going to get like 30% of it because we did about 10 to help you succeed here in the new Strixhaven environment. So with that, the first one that I do want to talk about is personally what I had a ton of fun with, was this top 200 Jund Magecraft deck. So this one was by Ubelstar. I changed up a little bit and made it for best of 3. This was primarily a best of 1 deck. Really enjoyed this one. It's got a lot of cool craft in terms of gameplay lines. I like Claim. I like that in an aggro heavy lineup, and it's a good out. It's going to help you in the mirror matches, those things. Sedgemoor Witch is a powerhouse. Very cool deck, and these decks and lists will be available to you down below in the details, so you can absolutely grab them, play them, and then also get some more fine tuning and understand how these decks play with a lot of my gameplay. All right, so very cool deck, kind of mid-rangey. Ooh, definitely mid-rangey, and control-y. I really like Mortality Spear. Is a great card, and does a number of things. The next deck that I wanted to talk through here was Magda Gruul. So Magda Gruul, this one here, very interesting. No Kaldheim, or sorry, no Strixhaven cards, Kaldheim cards. A little bit of a deck tech here. Recently hitting number 1, and very powerful. So big things to keep in mind is tapping this down. What I really like is the cheating of the Embercleave, cheating of the Dragon if you want to. A very healthy board on the side as well. I think you'll continue to see this one become a little bit more popular. It works as a nice mid-range deck as well. So the idea, again, like I said, with Magda, is tapping down. It's a nice fresh take on kind of Gruul Adventures, with some really powerful things on the top end, my friends. Last but not least, the final deck that we do want to talk through is Boros Winata, my friends. So this deck has been an absolute powerhouse. I've set this up so you can pull from it for your matches, and give you access in the best of 1, obviously in best of 3, so you have access to it as well. This is the combo here, Blade Historian with Kenrith the Returned King, giving you cleaves all the way across. Very straightforward deck. Like the 2 colors. I'm more of a fan of the 2 colors. I've seen a few people trying to do the Naya colors. This is just more consistent from my point of view. The other thing that you'll run into is there's another version here, I believe by Apollo, and you'll run into the Cleric, you'll run into the Knight, and get the +1/+1 tokens, or sorry, +1/+1 counters on your creatures. And I've had a lot of comments on that one. I personally like this one better. It gives you more access in terms of hits, and more value, from at least from what I've seen. And then generally I've been able to do better in the mirror match with this particular version. So just my 2 cents, not a big pool there, but a great deck nonetheless for you. All right, so Planeswalkers, to close this all out for you here today, I always appreciate you tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's list. We got through it rather quickly. We didn't have 50 decks. We still got a lot of time for the season and the set, so looking forward to the continuity, and bringing you more top decks with the Strixhaven series here. And then additionally following the weekly meta and doing another tier list, and getting into the historic stuff too as well. So questions or comments, let me know. Flip me a like if you enjoyed today's video. Would love to hear from you. If you enjoy combining the best of 1, best of 3, I always like to know that as well. So with that said, Planeswalkers, until next time, you stay safe. Great way to support the channel down below in the details. Much appreciated. Always feel free to hop in the Discord server, and other great ways for us to connect. Again, we'll see you soon. Top deck's coming. Weekly meta's coming. Twitch is coming. All sorts of things. Stay safe, my friends. Take care, Planeswalkers. Mithras out. Enjoy the tier list.